then it's your problem. That man, you put that on in air too.
Mike Iaconelli, always a lightning rod for controversy. Disqualified from day one of the Classic for unsportsmanlike conduct. Was it unfair, or did the bad boy of bass fishing go too far?
But to be disqualified for kicking a light pole and maybe cussing a little bit? Absolutely not.
Predictions of a record-breaking Classic were dead on. Luke Clausen, the best day in Bassmaster Classic history. 29 pounds, 6 ounces, the most weight ever caught in one day of fishing in this event. And the biggest bass ever caught in the Classic. That record was broken 3 times
Everybody
in the
says,
same
when are
day.
you going to quit fishing? When are you going to quit fishing? When I quit doing that, that's when I'm going to quit fishing.
One of the most exciting tournaments in bass fishing history continues as Basscenter launches now. $25 million Americans fish, but here at Lake Toho in Kissimmee, Florida, only 50 plus 1 South African have a shot at bass fishing's most coveted prize. It's the 36th Citgo Bassmaster Classic, and moments ago, those anglers hit the water in their high-powered bass boats. On the line, $1.2 million, with $500,000 going to the winner. And defending champ Kevin VanDam is fighting just to keep his tournament hopes alive, as the best angler in the world sits on the bubble and might be in danger of missing the cut. Here's where the Bassmaster Classic stands after day one on Friday. Luke Clausen, Preston Clark. It looks like a runaway Byron, but hey, big fish out there in the lake as we see.
Too many big fish to tell what's going to happen. Any big 10-pounder can put all these guys right up, blow them past the top.
And Kevin Worth noting in the 4th spot, he is a former Kentucky Derby jockey. Rick Clunn, the veteran, 30th Classic, 4 wins. He's in 5th. I am telling you what,
It's awesome.
Off to a great start here at Lake Toho in Kissimmee, Florida. Hello, everyone. Good morning. Welcome to our coverage. I'm John Kernan, along with my fishing partner,
A very
Byron
excited
Velvick.
fishing partner. This is the land of the giants.
Hey, this guy's ready. He's got his rod and reel ready. We're just going to drop a line right down here, and I bet you
Every
probably catch a
commercial
5,
break,
6
I'll be
pounder.
casting right back here trying to break those records we saw.
Well, there's also been a big story develop on Friday, as you saw at the beginning. Mike Iaconelli, former Classic champion. GQ magazine voted him one of the 10 most hated athletes in any sport. Well, he sort of had a meltdown and wound up getting his entire weight on Friday zeroed.
Oh.
But he's back out there on the water today. Now, for more on the controversy, here's Trey Reed.
Mike Iaconelli was having a pretty good day.
It's just exciting.
He had already caught 7 fish by 9 in the morning.
Yeah. First 3-pounder today.
And then things went south.
Oh, no.
Quickly.
Come on, guys. Don't die on me. Come on.
Iaconelli knew his shot at a second Bassmaster Classic title was probably gone.
This is devastating, dude.
If indeed the fish in his live well were dead.
That one's dead. Come on.
By rule, you can weigh in dead fish, but you're penalized heavily for it.
No. Did you see that? Even them.
Iaconelli tried desperately to resuscitate the bass
No.
by using chemicals and by running water through their gills.
Come on, fish.
He saved 4 of them,
Stay alive.
but lost his cool.
He handled it quite well. I mean, for $500,000, I mean, what can you do?
You blew up out there. What, you
I did.
got any regrets?
I don't have any regrets. I mean, I was frustrated. I was angry, you know. I took my frustrations out on an inanimate, unalive object. Do I have regrets about that? Absolutely not. You know, I've broken rods over my leg before. I kicked a light pole. There's no regret for that.
He used some very profane language in front of a lot of spectators. He removed the running light, part of the safety equipment of these boats, and destroyed that running light.
Was I the first person ever to do that in the history of bass fishing? Absolutely not. Was anyone ever disqualified for cursing? Absolutely not. You know, I don't understand why I'm being targeted for that. I think it's the wrong decision.
I don't have any sympathy for him. If he wants to throw a fit out there, he can suffer the consequences as far as I'm concerned. If we don't hold the integrity of this sport and hold guys to the sportsmanship conduct, you know, where is it going to go?
If my kid did that, he'd be in deep trouble. I mean, I love the passion. I just hate the message.
What do you think about the decision?
I think it's stupid. I think it's wrong.
This is devastating. It's never happened to me before in a classic. Never.
And the former Classic champion now, I would say, no hopes of winning, just trying to make the cut. He's going to have a tough road to hoe today. Now, Byron,
yes.
What do you think? Did he go too far on this?
Well, right off the bat, it's a live well malfunction. And when I look at that, and I watch those tapes closely, he's having a tough time with those live wells. And he's in the heat of the moment. He's still trying to figure out how to work that. It was an equipment malfunction with a unit that's supposed to keep the fish alive. But did he go too far? That is the ultimate question here. My opinion, I fished with Mike Iaconelli before. We were team partners in Spain. I know this guy under pressure. He's going to look back at these tapes and he's going to say, I did go too far. You know what? In retrospect, I probably shouldn't have done what I did because I think he lost it in the heat of the moment. I think he got a little bit bent. I think the pressure was going and he blamed it all on a unit failure, an equipment failure, and I think he might be looking back saying, wish I wouldn't have done it that way, John.
Okay, let me ask you this, Byron, because we watched the tape of that, probably 15, 20 minutes of what was going on out there on the water. Now, Iaconelli uses normally a Ranger boat. These are Tritons. Could have been unfamiliarity with how to run that live well unit.
Absolutely not, John. And the reason is he actually fishes out of a Triton. Most of the times he makes the cut. When he makes the cut, this is not his first Classic. This is not his first ride in a Triton. He's out there fishing a Triton, but it's not the first time. It's not the boat's problem. It wasn't the equipment failure. It was the user error. I think he missed the timing situation. The aerators are complex. There's pumps involved. There's a lot involved with them. And I think when you're in the heat of the moment, he forgot to keep those things running, and he suffocated those fish, John. That's my opinion.
All right. Well, of course, we've got reporters all over Lake Toho and, in fact, the entire Kissimmee chain of lakes. Let's start out talking to Mark Zona, Trey Reed. Guys, what do you have on this whole Iaconelli thing?
Thank you, John and Byron. I appreciate it. Trey, I got to tell you, he's turning into like a mini Andrew Dice Clay out there, seriously. I really do commend Bass for what they did. You do not need a real-life Happy Gilmore out there right now. If a guy does this in Major League Baseball, he's gone. He's gone.
Mark, I guess we're going to be in agreement here because, you know, I can't disagree with it either. Now, I will say this. If Iaconelli had just thrown the tantrum, then no DQ is necessary. But when he went to the light pole, took it up, threw it down, that's where he crossed the line. Okay, you went with the baseball reference, I'll go NBA. If a guy talks trash, he might get away with it, but if he runs over to the scorer's table, rips a banner off, and throws it on the court, David Stern's going to slap him with a fine faster than you can say Ron Artest.
Totally. Day one meltdown. Back to you, John and Byron.
They agree.
Yeah, they agree with you.
What do you know?
Well, they are kind of landlocked in their coverage, but as I said, we have reporters all over the Kissimmee chain of lakes, and besides the Iaconelli story, there's a lot of big stories going on. So let's check in on the water, and we start first, fresh back from Italy and the Winter Olympics. Here's Robbie Floyd.
Oh, yeah, and I made it a point to come here and cover Mike Iaconelli because that's the guy I'll be chasing. He's mad. I talked to him just a moment ago, and he said, yeah, he's disappointed. But you know what? He said he's still trying to make that cut at 25. He says he needs 25, 30 pounds. I think he might even catch more than Luke Clausen caught yesterday. Don't count him out. He's heading south. I'm heading that way. Mark May, where are you at?
Well, I'm in Lake Toho, and thanks a lot, Robbie. And I'm going to talk a little bit about Larry Nixon, 55 years old. This is his 25th Classic, and he has stated that this could very well be his last Classic. He won the Classic in 1983. Now, Larry Nixon, he's respected by every angler out here and a hero to many. He's won over $1.6 million in career earnings. Right now, he's sitting in 8th place, over 19 pounds of total fish caught. But here's the key. For him to go out, and as a former athlete, at the top of his game, he's in 8th place right now. If he can continue to fish the way he does and tomorrow win the Classic, $500,000 goes a long way in retirement, John and Byron.
Yes, it does. $500,000, and thanks to Mark May. You know, he's got that Super Bowl ring out there, and if his knees and stuff and his whole body would have held up, he'd probably be out there still trying. I
think that ring might be scaring the fish away. I hope that sun doesn't shine on Nixon's water.
You know, some of you might be new to this sport. This is the Super Bowl of bass fishing. $1.2 million on the line. We want to familiarize you with the rules of the game. It's a 3-day tournament. The guys are out there fishing 8 hours each day. 51 anglers, 50 from the United States, 1 from South Africa, 44 are Pro 7.
But here's the cut, John. Sunday cut 25. That means 26 of these guys, adios. Your classic is over, and a 5 bass limit. You're allowed to catch 5. After that, every fish you catch, build up that weight and get the heaviest winning weight for the 5 fish each day, 3 days of competition, John. That's how you make the classic your victory.
And some people are saying it might take 55 to 60 pounds. We will see. Let's check out the day 1 highlights. And how about the defending champ, Kevin VanDam?
You know what, John? He's never won in Florida. Now, yesterday he caught 5 fish, but they weren't the right size. He's only in 25th place.
The good thing is, it's tomorrow. I know where they're at. I know what they're doing, and I've got to swing for it now. I got to fish for a giant stringer. Got to.
4-time Classic champ Rick Clunn, his 30th Classic, told me Thursday it was going to take a variety of disciplines to win this thing, and he threw everything but the kitchen sink on Friday, didn't he?
It's called junk fishing, John, and junk fishing is, like you said, throwing the kitchen sink at him, and here he picks up a spinnerbait in between sight fishing places where he's looking for bedfish. He throws a spinnerbait instead, and look what he gets on the spinnerbait. He's throwing everything out there, a gold leaf spinnerbait. This is the kind of thing that Rick gets excited about because he's known as a spinnerbait master, John.
Oh, that's a nice fish. Oh, my goodness. This is not a young man's game exclusively. I mean, other sports are young men's games. And the fact that, and so we all assume that this sport's a young man's game. This sport is not a young man's game. It's everybody's game.
Preston Clark from Palatka, Florida, told me this week that when he was 15 or 16 years old, every time he caught a 5-pounder, he pretended that was the fish that won him the Classic. Well, check this out. 11 pound, 10 ounces, the largest bass ever caught in Classic history.
I didn't mind, and I don't mind Terry being that guy. I kind of like flying under the radar. Sneak up on him a little bit, but it's nice. The attention's nice, but I still have a job to do, and I have to go out and really focus on what's at hand.
Back in 2001, here on Lake Toho tour event, Dean Rojas dominated things. He set the 4-day weight record along with the single-day weight record, but he needed a last-second catch to jump into a tie for 14th yesterday.
Yes. Oh, we gotta go.
Hey, and what about Mark Menendez? Now, what a great story this is. A year ago, hospitalized with viral meningitis. He was fighting for his life a year ago, fought his way back into Classic competition. He has a little bit of the flu this week, but he's still catching them. 14th place after day 1 with a fish just like this.
Woo, that's the right kind. All day long.
And last year's Angler of the Year and runner-up bridesmaid Aaron Martins. The guy is a favorite of mine because he has so much to offer in a lake like this that is a personal fisherman. Finished second 3 of the last 4 Classics, just not catching them.
Gerald Swindle, tough day for the G-men, thinking it's spring training. Here's the pitch. Swing and a miss. Oh. Swindle's going to have to scramble to make the cut. He is 5th from the bottom. But look at this. He's reeling in a nice one right into your living room. Luke Clausen, big story of the day. Youngest guy in the tournament at age 27. Caught almost 30 pounds of fish. He broke Rick Clunn's 22-year-old record for the heaviest single-day weight in Classic history. But what about his modesty of now being in the record books?
It's a pretty cool deal, but it's really not fair to those other guys that have fished in the past with the Spring Classic versus when they were fishing in the summer. We definitely had an advantage, and it definitely was going to get broke here. It has a very good chance to get broke over the next 2 days again.
And let's check out the leaderboard, and this is unofficial, and they launched about 35 minutes ago, and already Preston Clark is on them.
That's incredible. That quick. I mean, they're already out there, and Preston he must have caught this on his first cast, John.
Probably right around the bend here from
Can we see him? Can we see him?
Clausen's still in second place. Edwin Evers third. Kevin Worth fourth. And Rick Clunn, the veteran, in the 5th position. Still to come on Basscenter, defending Classic champ Kevin VanDam is looking to break a record. Not just 4 straight tournament wins, but also the record for the biggest comeback in history. He trails the leader by more than 15 pounds of fish.
Basscenter is brought to you by Mercury Marine. Mercury, #1 on the water. And Nissan, who invites you to shift the way you move through the world.
Basscenter welcomes you back live to the 36th Bassmaster Classic. They call Lake Toho, where we are, the Sleeping Tiger. Well, apparently some of the guys are leaving Lake Toho right now. They want to get away from that Sleeping Tiger before it wakes up. They're heading south on the Kissimmee chain of lakes, trying to find the bass, or 5 bass, that will make the difference, that will get them through today into the 25 angler field tomorrow. And right now, check it out, Preston Clark from Palatka, Florida. You know, Terry Scroggins, one of his fishing partners, was said to be the odds-on favorite, but Preston getting the job done, Byron.
A Floridian, the hometown favorite, is actually making waves here. What an event it would be if a Florida guy wins in Florida. Like anywhere else, he'll break the curse of nobody, a home guy, ever winning in his own state.
And Davey Height sitting back in the 6th position, still well within striking distance. Well, today is cut day at the Bassmaster Classic. Half the field goes home after this afternoon's weigh-in. Among the anglers battling for the right to fish for that $500,000 first prize on Sunday is surprisingly the defending Classic champion, Kevin VanDam. Now, the biggest comeback in Classic history after day one happened way back in 1972 when Don Butler came back from just under 13 pounds to win. Well, heading into today, VanDam sits in the bubble seat, the 25th spot, a little more than 15 pounds out of the lead.
KVD, he's a freak, he really is. He is a fishing machine.
He is the greatest angler, in my opinion, that's ever picked up a rock.
When I lose to Kevin, it makes it a little bit easier to swallow because you're literally losing to the best fisherman alive.
Kevin VanDam, in my opinion, will probably go down in history as one of the greatest fish anglers ever.
Our 2001 Bassmasters Classic champ, Kevin VanDam.
He's got more raw talent than anybody out there.
He has all the desires, he has all the skills, he knows how to read Mother Nature. He's just got the fire, and that's what it takes. It doesn't matter if we fish clear water, muddy water, rivers, Florida lakes, he adapts so quickly.
A lot of people think that he's maybe a little cocky, but man, he can back it up as good as anybody. So I don't call it being cocky. I call it having confidence, and that's what makes him, who he is.
Multiple Angler of the Year titles, multiple Classic titles, multiple Tour wins. There's nothing in this sport that he has not done. He's our Tiger Woods.
He's set a new level of the sport that is much higher than ever before, and we're all trying to achieve that and surpass that.
The question whether Kevin could be considered as the greatest angler ever lived is a legitimate question. I think only time will tell.
And that makes Kevin VanDam a two-time Citgo Bassmaster Classic champion. Oh my.
With some people, there is an intimidation factor. Dale Earnhardt Sr., when he was racing, he was very good at intimidating other people when it came down to the end of the race. I don't try to do that. I try to control the variables that I can and focus on my own game. I know how I have to fish, win an event. I just really block those other people out. And by doing that, I think sometimes it may be a little intimidating.
I don't think you can get inside of his head. You just can't. Nobody can get inside of his mind. And he lives in a lot of other people's head free of rent. He has a great way about getting you psychologically. This is what breaks people down, not your ability to cast.
My hat's off to Kevin for doing what he's done for our sport as far as competitive level. Don't want to take him down and kick him in the butt. Oh yeah, I want to see him in my taillights for a change.
It's amazing the way these guys respect him. Kevin does it right on the water, away from the water. But he's
unbelievable.
In 25th place right now. That is the bubble spot. That is the cut spot. And I'm wondering, I hear something over there, and I'm wondering why you think Kevin may have a difficult time in winning this class.
You like the ambient sound here?
Yeah,
it's the
I like
BSX
that, yeah.
unit. Actually, there's a story here. Kevin has never finished higher than, 4th in Florida, if I'm not mistaken.
In a BASS
event. That's correct. And here's the thing, he's out there fishing, and last year it was felt by a lot of the pros as though he had an unfair advantage. Interestingly enough, an unfair advantage with this unit right here. It's called BSX. It's a Biosonics unit. It's not allowed in this year's Classic, John. If you can hear this, it's a unit that makes noise. It covers the sound of a trolling motor. It covers the sound of electronics. And this is something Kevin used for the last 3 major tournaments he won. Familiar with this?
Yeah.
Isn't that wild?
It is. That's great.
This is something where Kevin felt as though he had an advantage, and he knew that he was going into a situation this year where he was not allowed to use the Biosonics unit. Was it an unfair advantage? Some of the pros I talked to said there should be nothing on a boat that you're not allowed to use that is not a sponsor-related thing. It should be an even playing field. For Kevin, he had this unit. He feels it does help him in tournament competition, and ultimately it is something that, like I said, does it help? Does it not help? It's still up in the air. Who knows?
Well, I mean, hey, he won 3 straight tournaments at the end of last year with this, and nobody's ever won 4, so that was on the line for here. So he doesn't have it, so maybe he is at a disadvantage, maybe even a mental disadvantage. Of course, Mark Zona fishes with KVD quite a bit. Mark, what do you think?
You know what? Any of those guys could have bought that unit. They just got beat, John, plain and simple. Now, the one thing I will tell you, I have fished with Kevin VanDam when he's using this unit. It's all about confidence. It's kind of like a baseball player with his favorite pine tar rag. It's all confidence. And I will say, after the weigh-in yesterday, Kevin did tell me he could have had 15 of these units on his boat. Wasn't going to help. Back to you guys.
I just like the way it sounds. It kind of reminds me of the golden egg in that latest Harry Potter movie. You know, you have it out in the air, not underwater, and it just, sounds terrible.
It's schooling fish.
So it's underneath the water, and it's saying, Kevin VanDam is the man. You want to be in his boat.
Well, that's a good point. It calls it to the boat.
Coming up here on Basscenter from the 36 Bassmaster Classic, one thing about pro anglers, they're just like poker players. They're gamblers. They often take huge risks on the water that could cost them hundreds of thousands of dollars. We'll explain that when we come back. Basscenter welcomes you back to the 36 Citgo Bassmaster Classic. You're looking at an overhead shot, Cinderella's Castle from the Magic Kingdom. And you know the winner of the Bassmaster Classic, he can say, I'm going to Disney World.
And he doesn't have to go far.
Exactly. It is right down the street from here. Let's update you on the standings now. We are in day 2 of the Bassmaster Classic, and this is cut day. Preston Clark has already gotten on a fish. He is now unofficially moved ahead of Luke Clausen to take the lead.
Look at the weights, John. These are giant stringers coming in today, and it is cut day, like we said. Some of these guys are fighting to be here again tomorrow.
Kevin Worth caught his first bass at 7:06 a.m. He has moved up from 4th to 3rd place. Once again, that is unofficially. Now, some of those guys we may not have updates on right now because they've been making the run probably down to Kissimmee, which if you go all the way from the north end of here down to the southern end of Kissimmee, it's what, about 40 miles?
It's a long run, and these guys are going to have a long way to go. So they there's guys that haven't made a cast yet, so it's hard to say what's really happening out there, John.
And they get out of Toho into the Kissimmee River to go on down to Lake Kissimmee by going through a lock. And you know, a term that we hear a lot about is locked out. In fact, Rick Clunn lost a classic because he got locked out. Now, what exactly does that mean? What is a lock and why do they use it? Well, for more on that, here's Mark Zona.
One of the terms you're going to hear a lot this week is guys locking through. What is a lock? Basically, it's a boat elevator. Lake Toho sits about 4 to 5 feet higher than the other lakes. Guys come into here, the water lowers, go down in the other chain to Cypress, Lake Hatchinahaw, and Lake Kissimmee. When it rises, they're up into Lake Toho. But the biggest thing about the lock situation is losing precious, precious fishing time, and it's probably going to be the most important decision these guys have to make this week. You'll notice what they do is when they're letting that water into here, they let it in real slow. They're letting water through that gate into this lock and raising us up back into Lake Toho. They let the water in, and it just rises up real slow, probably about a foot every 3 minutes. The only thing to do in a lock is hang out, grab a rope, eat, chill with your buddies, wait till the water rises or lowers, and, well, you don't do too much. Basically, the only thing missing in a lock is elevator music, because you're just kind of hanging out, waiting for your ride up.
Well, we just went through the entire lock process. We are back into Lake Toho. The water came up about another 4 to 5 feet. The whole thing took about 30 minutes. Now these guys could get on their way. And the biggest thing about being in a lock is the lock master. This guy right up here, his name's Dwayne. He has probably the most important job this week for the pros because he controls the opening and closing of this lock. Right now, I would say Dwayne's got 51 best friends if they lock through. Hey, Dwayne. Love you, man.
We take you live now to look at that lock as Robbie Floyd is getting ready to head down through it. And Byron, you've had some experience with these things. You've been, as we say, locked out.
I have, John. Actually, I've lost some really impressive catches in tournaments that had to be dumped because if you miss that lock and you can't raise those fish, it's nobody's fault but your own. It's a gamble, and it's a gamble you just don't want to take in something like this, the Super Bowl of our sport, the Bassmaster Classic.
You might consider it a boat elevator or maybe even a boat escalator. Coming up on Basscenter, live from the Bassmaster Classic Friday, the huge story. Former Classic champion Mike Iaconelli's first day weight DQ'd because he melted down. More on that and the other big stories when we come back.
27 pounds! First man ever from the Federation.
In 2003, the sport of professional bass fishing got a facelift.
Hello.
His name was Mike Iaconelli.
Mike's a freak. Straight up freak. That's all I know.
Iaconelli was a brash, little-known angler from New Jersey. Not exactly the poster child of a predominantly southern sport. But in 2003, Iaconelli proved he belonged with the best, holding off a furious charge by longtime pro Gary Klein on the final day, clinching the win with a 3.5-pound catch with just 5 minutes left.
Never give up!
Though not everyone liked Ike, his antics played well to the masses. Without question, his classic win marked a new era in pro bass fishing.
From about 3 years ago, much happier times for Mike Iaconelli when he won the Bassmaster Classic. But this weekend, of course, on Friday, big story developing out there on the water.
That ain't your problem. Man, you put that on in air, too.
Mike Iaconelli, always a lightning rod for controversy, disqualified from day one of the Classic for unsportsmanlike conduct. Was it unfair, or did the bad boy of bass fishing go too far?
But to be disqualified for kicking a light pole and maybe cussing a little bit? Absolutely not.
Predictions of a record-breaking Classic were dead on. Luke Clausen, the best day in Bassmaster Classic history. 29 pounds, 6 ounces. The most weight ever caught in one day of fishing in this event. And the biggest bass ever caught in the Classic, that record broken 3 times Friday.
Everybody says, when are you going to quit fishing? When are you going to quit fishing? When I quit doing that, that's when I'm going to quit fishing.
Oh, man. And then that big bass record broken those 3 times, just incredible.
It's a fishing factory, John.
And let's check out the leaderboard. And this is unofficial. Preston Clark caught a fish very early on, 30 pounds, 9 ounces in the lead right now.
He must have caught that fish before the last boat got out of the gates, because this is a quick change, John. Some of these guys haven't even made a cast yet, and Preston's already taken the lead over Luke Lawson.
It's just incredible. As you take a look once again at the unofficial top 10, I want to remind you that up next, live tournament coverage beginning at 8 o'clock Eastern on ESPN2. And then Byron and pals will be at the Bassmaster Classic weigh-in. That starts at 4:30 this afternoon on ESPN. We are already off after one day and just about, 55 minutes of action in the 36 Bassmaster Classic. Just off to an incredible, huge. You got the records, but then again, the big story, the guy a lot of people love, the guy a lot of people hate, had his weight disqualified. We're talking about Mike Iaconelli, the former Classic champion. And for more on that story, let's go to Trey Reed.
Mike Iaconelli was having a pretty good day.
It's just exciting.
He had already caught 7 fish by 9 in the morning.
Yeah. First 3-pounder of the day.
And then things went south.
Oh,
Oh, no!
quickly.
Come on, guys. Don't die on me. Come on.
Iaconelli knew his shot at a second Bassmaster Classic title was probably gone.
This is devastating, dude.
If indeed the fish in his live well were dead.
That one's good. Come on.
By rule, you can weigh in dead fish, but you're penalized heavily for it.
No! Did you see that? Them.
Iaconelli tried desperately to resuscitate the bass by using chemicals and by running water through their gills.
Come on, fish.
He saved 4 of them, but lost his cool.
He handled it quite well. I mean, for $500,000, I mean, what can you do?
You blew up out there. I did. Got any regrets?
I don't have any regrets. I mean, I was frustrated. I was angry, you know. I took my frustrations out on an inanimate, unalive object. Do I have regrets about that? Absolutely not. You know, I've broken rods over my leg before. I kicked a light pole. There's no regret for that.
He used some very profane language in front of a lot of spectators. He removed the running light, part of the safety equipment of these boats, and destroyed that running light.
Was I the first person ever to do that in the history of bass fishing? Absolutely not. Was anyone ever disqualified for cursing? Absolutely not. You know, I don't understand why I'm being targeted for that. I think it's the wrong decision.
I don't have any sympathy for him. If he wants to throw a fit out there, he can suffer the consequences as far as I'm concerned. If we don't hold the integrity of the sport and hold guys to the sportsmanship conduct, you know, where is it going to go?
If my kid did that, he'd be in deep trouble. I mean, I love the passion. I just hate the message.
What do you think about the decision?
I think it's stupid. I think it's wrong. This is devastating. It's never happened to me before in a classic. Never.
All right, so Byron, what do you think? Was it worth that emotional outburst?
You know what?
Iaconelli.
I'll tell you what happened here. Ike spiked. That's what happened. Spiked. His emotions ran rampant. He got hot under pressure. I think what happened here was that he made a mistake with the way he operated the boat. He should have had those aerators, the live wells, working right with the timers and whatnot. And ultimately, he went a little bit Rodman on us. This guy became our Dennis Rodman yesterday. I mean, he's out there. He's freaking out. He's losing it. And I think this time, he'll even look back and think, I probably went a little too far. Was it worth it? I don't think so, John. I mean, it's now he's got to answer to sponsors. He's got to answer to his fans, the community. There's people right now that are not real happy about the fact that Ike did some of the things he did yesterday out there on that lake. And I think he's going to look back and say, I wish that had not happened the way it went down.
Well, Trey Reed and Mark Zona, of course, have been covering professional bass fishing for quite some time. Let's get their opinion on that, guys. What do you think?
Thank you, John and Byron. Trey, I got to say this. You know, the guy is turning into the Randy Moss of the sport. It's terrible. He's got an awful image right now with the fans, stuff like that. And he's not like that off the water. You get him up here, I'll let him watch my kids, okay? You get him up here, he's a normal guy. When he's out there, it's almost like he has an allergic reaction to the camera at times.
A little bit bipolar, maybe?
Well, I don't know about a little bit, but yeah. I mean, the guy doesn't like light poles, obviously.
I tell you what, Zona, I don't think it's entirely bad. We've all heard the cliche that
I don't think it's good.
Any press is good press. You look back to the 2004 Classic in Charlotte, the same thing happened. And what did everybody talk about? Mike Iaconelli's DQ. We're talking about that instead of the records today.
Well, he has broke a record. He's been disqualified more than anybody in the Classic.
Absolutely.
Back to you guys.
All right.
a good, not a great record to have, Zona. Great pointing that out, but I'm sure Ike's not proud of that one.
You know, sportsman-like penalties happen in other sports. Just last weekend, the Daytona 500, when Tony Stewart cut down on Matt Kenseth, he got sent to the back of the pack. Now, that didn't take him out of contention to win.
Good point.
Like this basically has taken Iaconelli out of contention to win. But
can he catch 30 pounds today and make it past it? That's the big question.
He told me he had a plan A, a plan B. I hope he has a plan C to go out after the big ones.
He's got to now because he's behind the 8 ball.
All right, one of our reporters out on the lake looking for the big ones right here on Lake Toho is Mark May. Mark, what you got?
Well, guys, no big ones yet, but as you can see them, the leaderboard, you look at Ish Monroe, you look at Larry Nixon, they're sitting in 8th and 9th place respectively. They've had great days yesterday, a tremendous day, over 19 pounds each, but they're not out of it yet. They're 10 pounds out of it, but these guys have fished consistently, catching the 4 and 5 pounders. They haven't caught the big whoppers yet. And you look at the leaderboard at 29 pounds up at the top. You look at Luke Clausen. You look at Preston Clark. Those guys have caught the big fish so far in the tournament. That's why they're leading this tournament. But the other guys are very steady. There's still a long way to go. Lake Toho, in my opinion, is the place to be because you can catch those 4.5, those 5-pounders, those consistent size fish. Right now, the weather's holding up, guys. It's going to be a great day for fishing.
Yeah, it sure looks like it right now, Mark, although it is a little bit overcast. If it doesn't clear up, then those guys who are looking on the beds where they're spawning and the fish are guarding their nests, their eggs, they're not really going to be able to see them.
It's hard to see fish that are up trying to spawn and be on these beds in these clear light spots when it's overcast and windy, so this is a little bit more of a detriment to guys that are sight fishermen.
Well, still to come here on Basscenter, live from the 36th Bassmaster Classic, $1.2 million on the line, totally $500,000 to the winner. And how many people would like to see the veteran, Rick Clunn, who's been in, this is his 30th Classic. He's won 4 of them. Let's go for one ring for the thumb. Oh, yeah. We welcome you back to Lake Toho, Kissimmee, Florida, with an update from the 36th Bassmaster Classic. Preston Clark caught the biggest bass ever in Classic history on Friday. Well, this morning, he's on him again. Byron, look at that, just 7 minutes after 7.
That's a quick catch. A lot of guys haven't even made a cast yet. This guy's catching fish early, and you know he's from Florida. No stranger to anywhere he's going to go today. I bet he's already fished there before, Don.
You know, he told me that Florida bass are different than every other bass in the country because they fish here 365 days a year, so they hear a motor, they get spooked, and they leave. You have to know how to be quiet around him and get around him.
He's the king of stealth, I'm hearing.
Yeah, he was in the lead momentarily, but now unofficially, Luke Clausen, your first day leader. Look at that. He has landed a fish just a few minutes ago. Unofficially has retaken the lead.
A battle is starting to develop, John. Look at the battle starting to develop between first and second place. Kevin and Edwin and Rick, they better start doing some catching up because these guys are catching them quick and often and early.
I tell you what, a guy who caught one that was over 10 pounds yesterday, the veteran Rick Clunn, still sitting there in the 5th position. He is, you know, going for one ring, Classic champion ring for the thumb, you know, kind of like the Steelers and all that stuff are going there. And it's bringing back a lot of memories of days past when Rick Clunn was the guy to beat in these events every year.
Absolutely.
27 pounds! First man ever from the Federation.
1984, possibly the greatest of Rick Clunn's 4 Classic wins, but it was a tournament he nearly didn't finish.
Bob Cobb took me back in the back and told me that my dad had been admitted to the hospital.
We got a phone call, and his dad was taken and put in intensive care and was not expected to live.
Despite his dad fighting for his life, Clunn made the decision to stay and fish.
My sister really kind of made the decision for me, and she says, well, he's in a coma, he's not going to know you're here anyway. And if he pulls out of it, and you're leading the Classic and you come home, he's going to kick your ass.
His 3-day catch of 75 pounds 9 ounces remains the heaviest by far in Classic history.
Ricky Clunn!
I mean, Rick Clunn is the Classic master. He's fishing in his 30th Classic, a record. He shows no sign of letting up, especially after catching that 10-pound bass yesterday. You know, he won his first Classic some 30 years ago. Now, if people consider Kevin VanDam the Tiger Woods of bass fishing, then certainly Rick Clunn has to be considered the Jack Nicklaus of this sport.
My name is Rick Clunn. I'm from Ava, Missouri.
Just the sight of his silhouette and the sound of his favorite music is pure American classic.
Nobody won more than one Classic. Well, I won 2.
He won the Classic in 1976 and 1977.
I'm not impressed by 1-year wonders, 2-year wonders, or 3-year wonders.
Let's give it for him, folks. Come on, everybody, stand up.
And when you win 3, can you win 4? Because now you're shooting at yourself.
He's going to be our winner. 4th-time Bassmaster Classic champion, Rick Clunn.
I would put him in a league of his own. There might be some other people that might compare to him, but he's really in a league of his own.
15 years since his last Classic win, Clunn sees silver, even when his doubters call it gray.
I've and sitting next to him on the couch when he was the topic of discussion on ESPN in an incredibly harsh way, and that's gotta hurt. He never, he never openly expressed that to me, but I know it did.
The thing that amazes me about Rick Clunn is how he continues to motivate himself. I don't see how he can continue at his age to drive like he does.
So where does this attitude come from that says just because you're old you can't participate and contribute?
All right, ready, roll.
Clunn recently became a spokesman for Theragenics, a company providing alternative treatments for prostate cancer. It's a good fit for Clunn, who lost both parents to cancer. He believes society devalues age and dismisses sportsmen prematurely.
I can understand in football where, yeah, definitely your physical attributes are only good for so long. That's not true in fishing. It comes from the philosophy this country has about retiring people. We don't know what to do with the old people, and that's becoming obvious.
A new champion, Rick Clunn! This is the broke all the record, Ricky Clunn!
Within that passion was a desperate hunger that success takes away from you. I don't know that I want that back. I mean, that's when the true test takes place. It's a lot harder when than when I don't have those things, when I'm not aiming at somebody else and what they accomplish than it was back when I had those things.
I have an interesting story about Rick Clunn. I know Byron's going to hate the fact that I'm going to bring this up, but
don't talk about that.
You know what? You know where I'm going with this. So, all right, a few weeks ago, Byron pulls me aside in the office. He says, "John, you got to hear this message on my phone."
This is confidential, John. I can't believe you're going
It was
here.
a message from Rick Clunn because he's not known for sight fishing, and where you're actually standing in the water, looking over the beds where they've laid their eggs and they're guarding it, and you basically drop a line and try and pull them out like that. He's not known for that. Doesn't really do it. Byron's pretty good at it. So he actually called and asked for your help. That had to make you just feel like top of the world.
It was akin to just being what you think is an amateur golfer. A guy, Tiger Woods calls you up and says, "Hey, how do I do this certain little putt thing you're doing out on the green?" I'm a guy that loves everything about what I've learned about Rick Clunn since I was in college. I drew this guy when I was a kid in college, and I was enamored by the fact this guy was probably the most cerebral angler I've ever met. I've actually molded my career after him. He's the one that encouraged me to fish for a living, and the compliment of a lifetime came, John, when you're talking about that phone call, because I get a phone call from Rick Clunn saying, "I'm going to be learning how to sight fish this year. It's not a strength of mine," and he has the wherewithal to call somebody that I've been doing it for years. He knew that I've been doing it, and he asked for advice, and I'm thinking, this is the greatest angler in the history of fishing, and he's calling for my advice, so I'm going to save that message. I'm going to play it for my kids, and I'm going to say, one time, the master asked the mentor asked the protege for a little advice. I'm honored and thrilled to even be a part of that.
Yeah, sorry to bring that up and embarrass you, but I just had to do it. Well, I can feel it's getting a little cooler right now. The wind's starting to blow a little bit more. When Basscenter returns to Kissimmee, Florida, the weather can play a huge factor in who might win this tournament. We'll tell you why in just a moment. Basscenter welcomes you back to the 36th Bassmaster Classic, Lake Toho, Kissimmee, Florida, and let's check out the leaderboard and look at Luke Clausen climbing the ladder right there, Byron. 34 pounds, 6 ounces.
And I'm starting to see a little bit of a gap separate here. Look at Kevin Worth, Edwin Evers, Mark Tucker. These guys need to start catching some, or maybe one big one, to make the big push.
You know, Kevin VanDam told me it could turn out to be a blowout. Well, it looks like two guys are starting to distance themselves from the field, but there are a lot of big fish out there on the water. So let's go out on the water, check in for an update with Robbie Floyd.
You mentioned two of the guys, Kevin Worth, Kevin VanDam. I was actually in the lock with them just a moment ago. They are heading south, and I got a little tidbit from it was actually KVD told me that he gave Kevin Worth, actually it was Worth that said it, he gave Worth the baits that he caught all his fish on yesterday. So KVD is heading the same direction. They said they weren't going to the same spots, but obviously KVD knows what's up. He just wasn't in the right place at the right time. Now let's go over to Zona and Trey Reed.
Thanks, Robbie. The biggest change that we're going to see today is heavy, heavy winds. And I guarantee you, before the end of this event, you are going to hear that the winds have destroyed one of the guys in the top 5 in their fishing areas. Right now, I'm banking Kevin Worth is the guy.
Well, Zona, that's a good point. These fish in Florida are completely different than anywhere else. So for these competitors, it's like playing every game of the regular season on artificial turf and then doing the championship on natural grass.
Turning over.
It's tough. It's tough to figure out. It's like the people down here. When it gets cold, they're not going to the beach. They're going to hunker down in their houses, and that's exactly what the fish do.
Actually, I am heading to the beach in a little bit. With these guys right here, guys, back to you. We're going on the lake. There they are.
See you later.
They're taking us.
Travel safe, Zona. Travel safe. Take that life jacket.
I would take a ride. Now, you can use Byron, use our pontoon boat that we have back here. Is it still back there, or did somebody steal that thing?
I think our fishing boat has left the building. We're out. We're stranded here. We'll be fishing off the dock today.
We are at the 36 Bassmaster Classic. It is cut day. 51 anglers are out on the water right now. After today's weigh-in, 26 of them will go home. 25 guys will then face off on Sunday for the first prize of $500,000. And you don't want to finish second because you only get $45,000.
Big difference if you finish second. Don't miss that cut.
Basscenter will be right back in a moment.
Basscenter is brought to you by Triton Boats. We take America fishing. Outside the Tackle Box is brought to you by Plano and the all-new Flipsider Tackle Systems. Plano invites you to flip it, find it, fish it.
Time to go outside the tackle box for more of this week's news. We saw some pretty huge bass yesterday here on Lake Toho, but we haven't seen anything like this yet. This is a Texas share lunker. That is a bass over 13 pounds that the state will use in its breeding program. The goal is to breed big, fast-growing, largemouth bass, and to do it, the state is offering an incentive. The 400th angler who gives a live 13-plus pounder to the program will get $400 for every pound that fish weighs. The rules: it has to be alive, it has to be a Florida strain largemouth, and it has to be from a Texas lake. But the clock is ticking. That bass was number 390.
Why didn't he just keep it and wait until he could weight it in as the 400th? Why did he let two other guys go ahead of him?
Well, you have to keep it alive, of course. Here's an update for you. Of course, unofficially, the leaderboard, Luke Clausen is still up on top. 34 pounds, 6 ounces. He caught a 3-pounder this morning at 7:37. That was about an hour after they launched.
Notice the movement, though. Rick Clunn has gone from 5th to 8th. There is some movement among that whole top 10 board. There's a lot of things happening as we speak right now here on the shores of Toho, John.
Well, you got to wonder if Rick Clunn has gone down south. He's made the run. It takes a little while to get down there, and maybe he hasn't even dropped the line, or maybe he just started fishing.
And it's been a late bite, too. We've noticed a lot of guys catching fish later in the day.
All right, we have a lot of coverage coming to you from the 36 Bassmaster Classic. Coming up next, here on ESPN2, we have live classic coverage. Follow your favorite anglers out there on the water. Watch them land the big ones, or at least try. And also, Basscenter comes back at 11 a.m. Eastern. We'll be right here on ESPN2 to give you all the news that develops. And then Byron and Company, day 2 weigh-in this afternoon on ESPN. Final thoughts. I see some blue up there. It looks like the sun might be coming out.
Don't miss this. This is going to be insane because right now these big fish are biting. This lake is stocked with big ones, and we're seeing a lot of big fish out there right now that are going nuts. Guys are going to lose big fish today, catch big fish today, and that leaderboard is going to be all over the place because an 8, a 10, a 12-pounder, it's very possible today, John. This is one classic that'll probably break all the records and probably set records that will never be matched again. So we're making history here. This is a historical classic.
All right, already the biggest bass in classic history was caught on Friday, and the heaviest single-day weight for a 5-fish limit tournament was also set on Friday. We hope you've enjoyed it. For all of our crew, we need to say goodbye and get out of here.